They mock the delivery woman at her husband's funeral, not knowing she is the journalist who exposed this police department. You'd think that at a funeral, people would have the decency to shut up. But when the woman carrying a cardboard box stepped into the chapel in her delivery uniform, laughter rippled like a virus down the pews. Serena kept her eyes down, the worn baseball cap shadowing her face, her fingers clenched tightly around the edges of the package. The voices came low at first, whispers too soft to catch word for word, but that tone carried sharp as broken glass. She heard wrong address, late delivery, and look who showed up dressed for the kitchen. It wasn't just cruelty. It was pointed. Deliberate. They knew exactly who she was, even if they pretended not to. Serena Miles, once an award-winning investigative journalist, now reduced to running boxes for SwiftShip. Her fall from grace had been faster than anyone expected. One story. That's all it took. One article about the Lakemore Police Department and its cooked arrest stats, its hidden brutality complaints, its quiet purging of officers who didn't fit the culture. And like that, Serena went from Pulitzer-nominated darling of the city to liar, race-baiter, and, more disturbingly, problem. But she'd known they'd come after her. What she hadn't expected was what they'd do to her husband. Charles was a quiet man. An art teacher. The kind of guy who left apples on his students' desks and bought clearance watercolor kits just to give them away. He never touched politics. Never posted anything controversial. He was just kind. But being married to Serena had made him a target. She still remembered the night he didn't come home. The call. The voice on the other end that couldn't even pronounce his name right. The story they gave: Hera traffic stop gone wrong, a misunderstanding, an officer who feared for his life. Charles was unarmed. His hands were raised. The dashcam footage never surfaced. The department closed the case in a week. She'd filed suit. She'd tried to scream. But the walls she once kicked down as a reporter now stood firm and blank in front of her, unmoved. No editor would publish her. No lawyer would take her case. And just like that, the city had turned its back. All she had left was this moment, this funeral. Even if they sneered. Even if they laughed. Serena approached the altar where her husband's urn sat, a modest bronze piece dwarfed by a floral arrangement that looked more like a pity bouquet than a tribute. She knelt slowly and placed the package beside it. "Your sketchbooks," she whispered. "I kept them dry. I know you'd want them near you." A sound behind her: deliberate coughs, fake sniffles. Someone cleared their throat in the exaggerated way people do when they want attention. She rose slowly, turned, and met the stares. Row after row of well-dressed mourners, half of whom had never spoken to Charles in life, sat with smug faces and shallow eyes. In the back, uniformed officers stood silently, arms crossed. She recognized one of them. Officer Keene. He was there the night she interviewed a mother whose son was jailed for loitering 3 blocks from his home. He was also there the night they raided her apartment under a noise complaint. No charges. Just intimidation. "Didn't know UPS did cremation services," someone muttered. Laughter again. Serena's jaw tightened. Her grief wanted to collapse into tears. Her pride held it upright like steel. She turned back to the altar, touched Charles's urn, then walked toward the exit. But Keene stepped in her path. "Ma'am," he said, his voice a mixture of mock politeness and threat, "you're not authorized to deliver anything to a memorial site." Serena didn't flinch. "I'm his wife. That doesn't grant courier privileges inside this building," he said, smiling just enough for her to see the edge of it. "You should leave before you make people uncomfortable." Behind her, murmurs turned into a slow rumble. The crowd was feeding on this. They wanted her out. They wanted to see her humiliated. Again. She looked past him toward the door. Her hands twitched, not from fear but restraint. She could have said 1,000 things. About the department. About the truth. But not here. Not now. She wouldn't let Charles's last moment be another battleground. She took a step to the side. Keane blocked it. "Step back," he said. His hand drifted toward the taser on his belt. A warning. The room had gone silent. Serena met his gaze and spoke just loud enough to be heard by everyone. "If you touch me, officer, you'll be making headlines again. This time in front of witnesses." Keane's smirk faltered. He studied her for a second longer. Then stepped aside. Serena walked past him. But just as she reached the door, a voice called out behind her. "What happened to your career, Serena?" It was a woman's voice. Cold. Sweet like poison. "Couldn't hack the truth?" Serena paused. Then she turned, her eyes scanning the faces until she found the source. A woman in a gray suit, pearls around her neck, the widow of the police commissioner. "No," Serena said. "The truth couldn't hack me." And then she left. Outside, the sky had darkened, clouds gathering heavy over the chapel. Serena stood for a moment at the top of the steps, her body vibrating with rage and grief. But something else stirred under it. Something small and hard and stubborn. A promise. She wasn't done. Not by a long shot. The rain didn't wait. It began in soft pinpricks, then fell in sheets as Serena walked away from the chapel, each drop a slap against her arms and face. She didn't run. Didn't rush to her car. Let them see her soaked. Let them laugh. That day wasn't about appearances. It was about something deeper. That day marked the beginning of her return. Serena had been broken. Not just by grief, but by silence. By a city that once applauded her articles but now erased her presence like she was an error in print. After Charles's death, she lost her job, her platform, and almost their faith. But grief has a strange way of burning away fear. And what remained inside her was something fierce. Something clear. She would not be quiet anymore. That evening, she unlocked a box she hadn't touched in months. Inside were dozens of files. Some were copies of records she'd obtained back when she still had press credentials. Others were notes, statements, redacted reports she'd pieced together on her own. She spread them across the table, eyes scanning. The names on the pages were not just stories. They were people. Victims. Families. Faces that blurred together in the public's eye, but not in hers. She remembered every single one. Jamal P., age 17. Pepper-sprayed and hospitalized during a traffic stop. Melissa R., dragged out of her home during a wellness check. James E., died in custody. Ruled a suicide, but his hands were zip-tied behind his back. And Charles Miles. Her husband. No record. No charges. No justice. Yet. She reopened a folder labeled Internal Affairs Complaints. Most of them were marked closed, insufficient evidence. But one had a note scribbled on the back in her handwriting from months ago. Check dispatch logs. May 12th. Missing entry. It came back to her like lightning. That missing call. The night of Charles's death. The department claimed no communication before the traffic stop, but Serena remembered hearing a voice in the background when the officer knocked on her door that night. Static. A dispatch order. She logged into the city's outdated transparency portal, found the public radio logs. There it was. A 38-second gap in the recording. The timestamp matched the moment just before her husband's stop. Someone had edited the audio. Or worse, deleted it. Serena leaned back, breathing heavily. This was something. Not enough to prove anything in court, but enough to start shaking trees. She needed more. She needed someone inside. Someone who still worked at the Lakemore PD. She opened her old contact list. Most had ghosted her. But one name blinked back from the screen: Luis Soto. Rookie when she met him. Idealistic. Naive. And the only officer who dared speak to her off the record after her last big piece. She messaged him. Didn't say much. Just a time. A place. And one line: you owe me. Bring the truth. The next morning, they met at a diner off State Route 23. Serena wore a hoodie pulled low and sat in the corner booth. Luis arrived late, glanced around nervously, then slid into the seat across from her. You shouldn't have messaged me, he said. They monitor everything now. Then you definitely shouldn't have replied, she said with a half smile. He didn't laugh. You don't get it. They have new software. Internal Affairs is basically a spy agency now. Ever since your article. Then I guess I did my job right, she said. Luis looked older than she remembered. Tired. His hair had gray in it. What do you want? Everything, she said. Starting with May 12th. The missing dispatch log. His expression froze. She knew, instantly, she was right. I can't give you that. Why not? Because the order didn't come from a regular officer. It came from command. Who? Serena, he whispered, you don't understand. If I give you this, I'm done. Gone. Blacklisted from every department from here to DC. And if you don't, more people die. More people get covered up. You think you're safe now? You're not. You're just silent. Luis ran a hand through his hair. He looked at her. Really looked. You've changed, he said. You used to be more idealistic. My husband is dead, she replied. That changes everything. He sighed. Pulled something from his coat pocket. A flash drive. This gets me fired, he muttered. But maybe you're right. Maybe silence is just another kind of betrayal. Serena took it. Didn't say thank you. Just nodded. When she got home, she plugged in the drive and opened the files. It was more than she expected. Not just the May 12th dispatch call unedited and raw, but also bodycam footage, complaint records, even a spreadsheet labeled priority interactions. The spreadsheet chilled her. It listed names, photos, and designations: monitor, target, ignore. Her name was there. So was Charles's. Under target. The date beside it was 1 week before his death. Serena's hands shook. She stared at the screen for a long time, her face unreadable. Then she copied everything. She no longer needed a publication. She didn't need a newsroom. She had the internet. And a voice. She created a website. Anonymously. No byline. No ego. Just truth. She uploaded the files, embedded the videos, and added one simple headline: who are they really protecting? She posted it at midnight. By 8 a.m., it had 20,000 views. By noon, 100,000. By evening, the mayor's office issued a statement. These allegations are disturbing and merit further review. Serena watched the chaos unfold from her small apartment, eyes unblinking. The news stations began picking it up. Not her name. Not yet. Just the evidence. Luis texted her one word: Jesus. She didn't respond. She wasn't done. She sent an encrypted copy of the files to 5 civil rights lawyers across the country. One replied immediately. Call me. We're taking this federal. But it was only when she heard the press conference that she let herself feel it. The new interim police chief stood at the podium, flanked by stone-faced city officials. We are deeply troubled by the contents of this leak. An independent investigation will be launched immediately. Serena knew what that meant. They were scared. They were trying to control the narrative. But the dam had cracked. And she wasn't going to stop. Not this time. She walked to the window. The sky outside was clear now, as if the rain had washed away something old. Something rotten. She took a breath. Tomorrow, she would reveal her name. Tomorrow, they'd know exactly who was behind the leak. And then, they'd remember. She wasn't the woman delivering packages. She was the one delivering the truth. The next morning, Serena Miles woke up to her name trending across every major platform. Anonymous whistleblower revealed as former investigative journalist Serena Miles. The image circulating was not the one from her press days, smiling behind a microphone. No. It was a blurry photo of her, soaked in rain, delivering a package outside a church. The headline beneath it read, "From Delivery Woman to Justice Warrior." She hated the title. Not because it wasn't true, but because it missed the point. She hadn't changed. The world had stopped listening. That morning, a young girl knocked on her apartment door. She looked barely 16, carrying a notebook and an old Canon camera. "Ms. Miles," the girl said nervously, "I'm writing for my school paper. Can I talk to you?" Serena smiled gently. "What's your name?" "Imani." "Two want to be a journalist too. My mom says you were the reason she filed that complaint years ago." Serena opened the door wider. "Come in, Imani. Let's talk." They sat at the table where all her files still lay. Serena explained not just what she'd done, but why. About choosing truth over comfort. Voice over safety. About the cost of silence. When Imani left, she turned back at the door and said, "I want to write stories that scare people in power." "Good," Serena replied. "That's the only kind worth writing." The next few days unfolded like a storm rolling through the city. The internal investigation that once would have been a closed-door formality now had public pressure breathing down its neck. National news anchors replayed the body cam footage. Civil rights leaders spoke her name beside legends. Her inbox flooded with requests, interviews, podcasts, exposés. Serena refused most of them. Not because she was afraid. Because she was working on something bigger. She knew the department would try to bury the truth again. They always did. So she gathered every family she'd interviewed over the years. All the ones who lost children, siblings, parents to police incidents. She didn't ask them to speak. She asked them to march. On Saturday morning, a crowd gathered outside City Hall. But it wasn't angry shouting or broken windows. It was silence. Over 200 people stood shoulder to shoulder, each holding up a photo of someone lost. Serena stood at the front with a sign that read, "My husband. Your system." Cameras lined the block. And then something no one expected happened. Officers from within the department began to walk out, not to confront but to stand beside them. One by one, they removed their hats. A gesture. A reckoning. The press rushed to frame it as unity. Healing. Serena knew better. This wasn't healing. This was accountability. Real change, if it came, would be slow. But this moment mattered. That night, Serena sat down and wrote again, not a report, not an exposé, but a letter. To Charles. "They laughed at me, love. They said I didn't belong. But today, they listened. And maybe tomorrow, a girl named Imani will do more than I ever could." She folded the letter and placed it in the old shoebox of his things. For the first time in a year, she didn't cry. A week later, Serena appeared before the city council. Not as a witness. As a citizen. As a voice they couldn't mute. She presented documentation, demanded the department be placed under federal review, and proposed a civilian oversight board with real subpoena power. The mayor, still trying to recover his image, agreed publicly. Privately, Serena knew he feared more leaks. But that was fine. Fear made people act. She didn't stop there. With the help of national civil rights groups, she created a public archive, the LEDGERA digital library documenting police misconduct cases nationwide. Crowdsourced. Verified. Uncensorable. Students began using it in schools. Reporters used it to investigate patterns. Lawmakers began citing it in reform bills. Serena watched it grow, not as a monument to pain but as a tool for change. One night, months later, she returned to that same church. Another funeral. Another black man gone too soon. She stood at the back this time, not in shame but in solidarity. Someone recognized her. A woman whispered, "That's her." That's the one who Serena turned and nodded gently. No more hiding. On the way out, a white officer held the door open for her. "Ms. Miles," he said. "I read everything. I left the department last week." She looked him in the eye. "Then maybe we're finally getting somewhere." Outside, the city was quiet. Not peaceful yet but watching. Listening. Serena walked down the steps, shoulders high, feet steady. And somewhere, behind clouds that slowly began to part, Charles smiled.